is just the show that keeps on giving. It's the best thing on the air right now since Real Housewives of Salt Lake City went off the air. This is really like holding me over until Real Housewives of Miami comes back. So welcome back. Hello. Sorry, I forgot to say that. Let's talk about The Valley Season 2, Episode 3. Kristen and Zach are talking about Santa Barbara. They're like out to lunch or something. And Zach is literally saying that every fiber of his being is afraid for what is going to happen in Santa Barbara. I don't know why he's so scared. I'm not sure if he thinks Janet is going to come armed, but he is literally already petrified. He knows it's going to be a shit show. Kristen is the one trying to convince him like not to hold a grudge against Janet. It's just so funny. She continues being the voice of reason this season. I feel like she's just going to go one by one to every single person's house and just get their shit in order. Everyone meets up to roll out to Santa Barbara together. Zach fills Nia in on his boyfriend moving in. He says he wants to marry him. I feel like this is just going to end in disaster. Not that I want it to end in disaster. I don't want bad things for Zach. I, in general, feel very, very neutral on Zach. I just can't imagine that this is going to turn out well. The vibes that I get from the boyfriend just from that one like FaceTime call that they had, and just with his whole like the fact that his divorce isn't finalized and all this stuff, I just feel like Zach is way more into it than the boyfriend is. So I don't know if this is exactly going to end well. And then Jasmine brings out a popsicle stick recreation of Benji, the boyfriend, so that Zach could feel like Benji is also on this trip. Like, thank you. If that was me, I'd be like, oh, ha ha ha. It would be funny for probably like 2 seconds, and then like when we stopped at a gas station to go to the bathroom, I'd probably toss it in a trash can. Like, I don't, it's very sweet. Thank you so much. That's really, really funny. But like, he loves it. He's like living for it. But I kind of saw that and I was like, girl, okay. In the other car, Brittany's phone goes off, and apparently Jax has been rage texting her ever since he got into rehab. She says that his schedule is he's apparently in therapy for 7 hours a day. And then after all of maybe it's like 3-hour chunks, and then he gets a 15-minute break. At which point, I guess he gets his phone and just sends as many hate-filled texts to her as possible. And then he goes back to therapy. This is something that Zach brings up later in the episode, but what the hell kind of mental health facility is this where they just let him have unfettered access to his phone like that? I didn't think that was allowed. That does not feel legit to me. There are like crackpot theories online that Jax actually never went to a mental health facility and he was just like sequestered with a handler because the way he was acting to Brittany was so concerning, and they just wanted him to pretend like he went to a facility because he wouldn't actually go himself. There are like crackpot theories like that. I don't know if I believe it. I don't know if I'm ready to go all the way there yet, but like, it does make me question. It's like, what kind of a facility is this that they're just letting him have unsupervised access to his phone like that? In his car, Jesse says that if Michelle was as happy as she says that she was, she wouldn't have to constantly tell people how happy she is. And then they of course cut to Michelle's car where she's like, oh, I'm so happy right now. Here's the thing is like, I'm not sure if Jesse's kind of trying to like dunk on her for being like, oh, haha, Michelle is secretly miserable. If I was in Michelle's situation, if I was trying to get a divorce from a man who dedicated his life to make my every waking moment a living hell, I would also be miserable. So I'm not sure why he thinks that's like a flex. You're basically just ruining this woman's life and you're bragging about it. And then Michelle in the confessional says that her plan is to just avoid Jesse for as much as possible. I don't understand why she's going on this trip. Maybe it's a mandatory trip, it's a cast trip, but just like putting the production aspect of it aside, it's like, why do you want to go on this trip? I personally feel like she's going just to prove a point to Jesse. I feel like she wants to prove that she's not afraid of him and that she actually is happy and she can totally put all of her feelings aside and enjoy a trip trip with her friends because she's not petty like that. But like, why are you making yourself suffer like that? It would be totally normal for you to be like, I don't want to spend a weekend in Santa Barbara on a trip that my ex-husband is hosting. I don't know why she's going, especially since Aaron isn't going. I would have been like, babe, let's just do our own thing. Like maybe they could have gone to Ojai and then skip this trip. I don't know why she's there. They roll up to this giant Spanish style mansion in Santa Barbara. It looks so beautiful. It's like on a cliffside. And of course, the first thing Jesse says is he goes, oh, I'm a very big fan of Spanish style. This actually reminds me of my house a little bit. Like, girl, you do not have that kind of cash. Your house does not look like that. You live in like a much smaller house. Your house is like half the size as this. I will say though, Santa Barbara is so expensive, and spending a weekend there, like all the hotels and Airbnbs are crazy pricey. I live an hour away from there and I never go because of just how expensive it is. That giant ass mansion was probably thousands of dollars for 2 nights. I can't even imagine. So then they start talking about, I think it's Jesse who says, oh, we're gonna go race cars. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, because I think Santa Barbara has a track where they maybe do NASCAR races. So I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, are they gonna go race cars on the NASCAR track? I was like, well, they've all been drinking, so there's definitely no way they can do that. They're gonna be drunk as hell crashing into each other. And then they show up to this like shitty little tiny dirt racetrack, and you find out that they're racing RC cars, like little toy cars. That right there is proof of just how little there is to do in Santa Barbara. I've been there a couple times and it's very beautiful, but it is just a small little like beach town. There's a UC there, a University of California, Santa Barbara, and then there's just a small beach town. There's really nothing to do except eat and drink and go to the beach. So the fact that the only fun outing they could find for this cast is racing RC cars, that just kind of proves to you what the vibes in Santa Barbara are. It's a little boring. Jesse rolls up to the track. So they're all wearing like racing jumpsuits. Like if you've ever seen what like the F1 jumpsuits look like, they're kind of wearing the NASCAR version of those. And Jesse rolls up to the track with half of his jumpsuit hanging around his hips, completely shirtless. It looks so douchey. Everyone else has their clothes on. It's Santa Barbara. Santa Barbara doesn't really get hot like that. Like, you're by the beach. There's a nice breeze. You don't need to be doing all of this. Everybody's immediately making fun of him, calling him douchey. And then Danny points out that he has really tiny nipples.
Big soft ones.
I feel like they're very like tiny, like a little
They are, but I don't
Skittle.
specifically remember them being Skittle nipples.
Not even Skittle. No, they're probably like a sprinkle.
A sprinkle nipple?
Probably.
Ooh, that's
He
like
looks like
really
it.
thin and long.
He looks like he have a.
Is it thin and long?
Honestly, this whole cast outing was so boring. If it wasn't for Jax texting Brittany, they would have probably edited like 90% of this out. It was so boring. But Jax starts rage texting Brittany again, asking to talk. He 100% knows that she's on this trip and he wants to ruin it. This is like a classic abuser tactic, a classic manipulative tactic. I feel like we've all had friends who, like, even if they weren't in this type of a situation, like with a very scary abuser, we've all had friends with just those like annoying partners, just those very mean, manipulative partners where like you're just trying to have a night out with your friends. Maybe you're out to dinner or you're at the bar or something, and your friend is just constantly on their phone and you're like, are you okay? What's going on? And they're like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm just texting my boyfriend real quick. And their boyfriend is just texting them all night. It's purposeful. It's because they want to ruin the trip. They want to ruin the outing. They want to make their partner feel guilty for going. It's a tactic. It's one of the oldest ones in the book. It sucks. It just sucks. And Jax's texts to Brittany are like psychotic. It's giving like mania for sure. And I think Jax himself came out and said he was diagnosed with bipolar. It's giving mania. Like, he's telling her she put him in a prison and she's trying to take her son away from him.
It's from rehab. Kristen, look. Look at all these messages.
Was there a reason you didn't block him?
I ended up blocking him.
Yeah.
It was mainly because of Cruz that I didn't block him in the beginning, because I thought like if I was still sending him pictures of Cruz every now and then and stuff, like it would help him.
Yeah.
They need to just ignore him. I think I said this last week, but the way that you deal with a person like Jax is you just ignore him, because he's a narcissist and he 100% loves all of the attention he's getting. I'm sure he loves the thought that all of them in Santa Barbara are talking about him, asking if he's okay, being like, oh, Jax is texting you, what is he saying? He loves that. He is living off of that right now. You need to just cut somebody like that off. And in the after show, Brittany says, like, the reason why she didn't block him is because she thought that he would feel better if she was able to, like, text him some pictures of Cruz. But then when his rage text to her got so bad, she did end up blocking him. Thank God. Like, it's so ridiculous. And then Zach brings it up. He's like, what kind of rehab is it that lets the residents just have their phones like this? I will say, I've been using the words rehab and mental health facility interchangeably when I've been talking about this. Jax is not in rehab. Originally, I thought it was rehab. It's not. He is very specifically in an inpatient mental health treatment center where he is, of course, not allowed to drink. But it's not specifically a rehab for alcohol and drugs, because he, of course, would never admit that he has an alcohol and drug problem, even though he's had a well-documented coke problem for, what, over a decade? And then, I mean, they're still, this all happens over the course of them, like, racing those little RC cars. News got out that Jax is in rehab. I think, like, TMZ is reporting on it, like, all of those little, what are they called? The tabloids are reporting on it. Brittany doesn't know who the source is. She doesn't know how they found out, but she thinks it's weird that the trades know so much info. My theory, I don't even think this is a crackpot theory. I actually think this is probably what happened. I think Jax leaked it himself to get attention and sympathy. I think that's the only way they could know all of this info. It was either Jax or his team leaked it to the press because he wanted attention and sympathy. He wanted the media to know, like, oh, I acknowledge I have a problem and I'm getting help. This was 100% another tactic from Jax. Brittany asks how Jax knows they're in Santa Barbara because she's not the one who told him. And Jesse says that he told him, and he talks to Jax every single day. In the confessional, Jesse says that Brittany deserves support, but so does Jax, and he says it would have been worse if Jax didn't know they went to Santa Barbara and if he found out later. I will agree on that part. I actually do think Jax would have made a whole big thing if he found out that Brittany went to Santa Barbara without telling him, because he would have used that against her. He would have been like, oh, you left my son alone for a weekend and you didn't tell me. He would have made a whole big stink about it. So I actually agree with Jesse that it probably would be better if Jax knew ahead of time. But then Jesse kind of comparing Brittany and Jax in the confessional, Jesse essentially saying like, oh, well, they both deserve support, don't they? It's like, well, only one of them is the abuser here. Like, only one of them is a danger to the other one and to Cruz. It's not both of them that are like that. I mean, if it was me and I found out, I'm friends with a lot of couples. That's like when you get older and you're in a serious relationship, most of your friend groups, it's like in the Valley, it becomes couples. If I found out that my best friend's husband had been being scary towards her and like flipped a coffee table and did all of this scary stuff and went to rehab, I wouldn't be calling him every single day being like, oh, he deserves support. That man would be dead to me. So, and I mean, here's the thing. This is like a man, Jesse. It's like men will always make excuses for other men. So like, am I surprised? No, but I definitely would not be doing that. Then Jesse, unprompted, goes up to the women. He goes up to like Janet, Brittany, and I think maybe it's like Janet, Brittany, and maybe Kristen. He calls them out for allegedly bullying his girlfriend. And the girls are like, we never did that. We never bullied the girlfriend. And Janet was like, I didn't bully her. I said at least she's better than the tacky girls that Jax has been hooking up with. Which, like, is that quite a compliment? No. But would I call that bullying? No, coming from Janet, that might be the closest to a compliment you can get from her. And then what Sheena said comes up about Jesse's girlfriend talking about sleeping with other men. And Janet asks if they're still together. And Jesse says no. So it's like, okay, why? You're not even together. Why are you bringing this up? She goes, why are you defending her over the mother of your child? And then Jesse goes off on Janet and he accuses her of manipulating the situation and playing games. Janet just like walks away at this point. Then she goes, oh, well, your ex-girlfriend shouldn't be threatening to sue Michelle, which is like, it's so crazy. And then Jesse randomly, completely irrelevant, he goes, Michelle shouldn't have been cheating on me for 2 years. And then Janet, thank God for her at this moment. She goes, well, if I was married to you, I would be cheating on you too. That rocked. That was probably one of my favorite moments from this season so far. Jesse just completely started shit for no reason. He's the one being like, Michelle causes all this drama. Michelle bullies me. Michelle is so like manipulative and stuff. Then he out of nowhere, unprompted, goes up to the women and starts a fight with them and then brings up Michelle cheating on him again. He brings it up like once a day at this point. It's like, good for Janet for clapping back. That shit was so annoying. And it's also like the women were being so supportive of going on this trip with Jesse. Like they all argued with Michelle. They like argued against her saying like, no, I think Jesse should be allowed to sleep in the house. It's his trip. And now Jesse's going up to them and like starting fights for no reason. He's so manipulative. They're back at the house cooking dinner. Zach wants to pull Janet aside to talk. He's like, we need to figure out our beef. I'm gonna be honest with you, a lot of the Zach-Janet beef confuses the hell out of me. I feel like there's a lot that kind of goes unsaid. I didn't realize until I watched the after show that they have like a very long history. They've apparently known each other for, I think, like over a decade, a really long time. But I think one of the main sources of their strife is that Zach wants to be friends with Janet a lot more than Janet wants to be friends with him. It's almost the same thing as I think what goes on between Zach and Brittany. I think Zach just likes these women more than they like him. So Zach says that he's hurt that Janet dropped him and now they're not friends anymore. And he was really hurt when she didn't invite him to Big Bear. And then Janet is like, it's actually a very calm conversation. Janet says that she should have had a conversation with him after their big fight at the end of season 1, but it never felt like there was a right time. They just kind of keep going back and forth like that. There were some tears, but it basically ends with them making peace, I think. I'm pretty sure. And then Janet's like, listen, we might not be best friends moving forward, but I want to just move on. I'm ready for this to be over. I'm overall just ready for this to end, especially since I feel like there's a lot of information about their fight that we don't know. And that's always really annoying when two people in a Bravo show imply that there's so much history and they don't tell you what the history is. That's always really annoying to me. So I'm glad we're kind of moving on from this. Kristen welcomes a spiritual guide into the home. And while the guide is setting up, she goes into her room and she sees that her ovulation test says today was the last day of this month's cycle. And she starts crying and she says that she hates her body. That made me really, really sad. Like, it's a little easier watching these scenes knowing that she's pregnant now. Like, it does make it a little easier, but wow, it's like really sad. Nia comes in and Nia is so like soothing. She has such a soothing voice and a soothing presence. I feel like I would love to have her talk me down if I was ever going through something. I would love to just have her like sit on the bed with me and like stroke my hair and be like, everything's gonna be okay. I think I would be fixed. But now it's time for the healing circle. The spiritual guide has finished setting up. She introduces herself as a ceremonialist, an embodiment guide, and a sacred photographer. What in the world is sacred photography? Actually, let me go ahead and Google it right now because I think I meant to and I forgot. I'm gonna Google sacred photography. Nothing comes up. There's a wedding photography company called like Sacred Moments. There's one called Sacred Wild Photography, and they're all wedding photography. So sacred photography is definitely something that she made up, and I love that for her. Listen, get your bag. Get your bag. These fucking spiritual people, I'm gonna be upfront with you and say, I would not describe myself as spiritual. I'm a lot more like Brittany and Janet were in this situation. I'm not a believer. I'm not a believer. I respect anybody who does, but it's very much not my jam. I do think that these people are super scammy. I mean, I can't imagine how much this woman charged to come to the house that night. Like these people make thousands of dollars off of people like Kristen. I do think it's a scam. But get your bag, and if it brings people some peace, then who am I to judge? Brittany cannot stop laughing. She literally cannot keep her cool. It's like I was saying, it's so funny that I've only just now noticed this, that Brittany is not exactly the most like tactful person, but she cannot stop laughing. The spiritual guide basically has everybody go one by one in the middle of the circle and talk about what they need to release. So like, you know, I think Danny goes in and he's like, I want to release fear, and you know, people just kind of say stuff like that. I want to release pride and I want to let in peace, and everybody kind of goes in one by one. Jesse starts crying and then he says he's gonna pass, and he goes, I don't want to express my feelings and then look over at the mother of my child and see her not care. What? I mean, he's just so clearly not over Michelle. I like, at the end of the day, that's really what it is. If Michelle woke up tomorrow and she was like, Jesse, I made a huge mistake and I want you back, he would jump at the chance. 100% he's still in love with her. That's where moments like this come from. Like, you start crying because you're like, I don't want to express my feelings and then look over and see you not care. Like, he's still in love with her. That's what it is. Then at the end, Jason requests that they all send healing energy towards Jax and the mental health facility. And they cut to, I guess, a video diary that Jax recorded from there. It's so clearly an act. I'm so glad they put this video diary after we saw the text messages he was sending to Brittany, just so we could see how fake he is. He's pretending to be so positive, and he's saying, I'm discovering so many things about myself. And then he like goes into the speech about how hurt he feels by Brittany, and it's so manipulative. He says he feels neglected by her, and he's like, you know, when we got married, we said in sickness and in health, and right now I'm sick. And I wish you would come visit me. I wish you would check up on me. And it's like, Jax, you guys are separated. Your marriage vows don't really apply right now. You're separated and you're on the road to divorce. Brittany does not owe you anything. And then also bringing up the vows as if, because those are like the Christian vows, like in sickness and in health, for richer or for poorer. Those are like the default Christian vows. Let's not pretend that you're this like super religious, like man of the book. Like, relax. Then after that's over, they pass around a gratitude ball and they say what they're thankful for. Jesse, he's okay. Part of this is just him being manipulative towards Michelle, and then part of this is also 100% for attention, like sort of similar to what Jax does. He immediately starts crying when he gets the ball, and he says he's in the middle of a very toxic situation, but it's amazing that Isabella's thriving. Then he passes the ball to Michelle, and without anybody saying anything, he goes, hey, Zach, why don't you go ahead and try not to roll your eyes at Michelle the same way you were rolling your eyes at me? Just so, like, okay, just so combative. He came into this vacation so combative. Like, you planned this. Why do you want to make such, like, an unhappy environment for everybody? Then Michelle starts crying, and she says that a great moment was when her and Jesse decided to have a child together.
Let me think for a moment, because it's hard to think. A great moment was when we were deciding to have a child together.
It's nice. Yeah.
And I don't know why he walked away.
After that, Jesse just leaves, and Jasmine and Zach roll their eyes at that. Good for them. I'm really glad that, like, nobody's really, like, falling for this. I'm not saying that Jesse's feelings aren't valid. I mean, it's like I said, I do think he's still in love with Michelle, but he's being so dramatic. And if Michelle was acting this way, if Michelle was picking fights, and if she was refusing to participate in the spiritual circle, and if she was storming out of rooms and crying and telling Zach, like, hey, don't roll your eyes, Jesse would be like, oh, look how immature Michelle is. Oh, look how Michelle is just pretending to be happy, but see, look at the cracks. She's clearly not happy. So it's like, why does Jesse get to act that way and Michelle doesn't? Jason chases after him, and he finds Jesse shirtless. Jesse like immediately strips down to his underwear, and he's just like raging, and he tells Jason to leave, and he's like, I don't want to talk right now. I don't want to talk right now. He like immediately got in his underwear, and that's where the episode ends. I'm assuming we're gonna pick up right where we left off this coming week. In the previews for the next episode, Michelle and Jesse finally get into it. I think honestly at this point so much tension is building, they kind of need to get into it. And it looks like Danny comes back because he had left after the spiritual circle. He was like, I need to go and do a VO gig and then come back in the morning. Fellow actor, I understand, respect, I would do the same thing. And it looks like he comes back and he gets drunk. So I don't even know if we talked about it like that much. We talked about the incident with Jasmine and her girlfriend Melissa, but like How many times has Danny been drunk on this show, embarrassing the hell out of me? She needs to leave him. This problem's only gonna get worse. And then Brittany finally like breaks down. This is gonna be, I think Zach was right at the beginning when he was like, every fiber of my being is shaking right now. I think he was right. I think next week, everybody's gonna prove him right. And that's the end of this week's episode. If you missed it, I recapped last week's episode of Summer House, season 9, episode 13, so you can check that out on the channel. Keep a lookout because this week's Secret Lives of Mormon Wives is coming back, and I'm gonna cover that. And then, as usual, we will have our recaps of The Valley and Summer House as well. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next time.